You ever watch someone so power-hungry they end up handcuffing themselves to their own downfall? Because let me tell you, I've seen that train wreck happen in real time, right in my own driveway, with the HOA president screaming community safety and dialing 911 on my wife for swapping the locks on our cabin. Imagine that. Your own front porch, blue lights spinning, and some lady with more rings than Saturn insisting your wife is trespassing and needs to be arrested, all while her manicure flashes like warning beacons at the cops. Yeah, that happened. You'd think I'd be numb to this kind of nonsense after 23 years as an Air Force mechanic, surviving enough petty tyrants to last 3 lifetimes. But nothing, not even military-grade drama, prepares you for a Colorado HOA run by a woman who treats bylaws like royal decrees. Karen Whitfield, self-appointed queen of Pine Ridge Mountain, married to a city councilman, real estate mogul in her own mind, and the kind of person who could find code violations at the Sistine Chapel. And she had no clue that my wife, quiet, keeps to herself Sarah, was a deputy U.S. Marshal who'd been gathering evidence of Karen's $400,000 embezzlement scheme for months. We'd moved here 2 years back after Sarah's grandma left us her old cabin, a little chunk of pine-studded heaven, the kind of place where you smell the forest every time you open the window. We poured our savings into it, turned that faded memory into our dream, not realizing we were dropping anchor right in the path of Hurricane Karen. She didn't care that our property rights predated the HOA by 40 years, or that the door she claimed ruined architectural harmony was a labor of love. To her, rules were suggestions, unless they got in the way of her next cash grab. She rolled up that first morning in her white Escalade, flanked by board members and a contractor who looked like he'd overcharge his own mother. Out came the citations: door, locks, noise from my workshop, all fabrications, all calculated. And when Sarah, in her usual soft-spoken way, started poking holes in the emergency meeting records and contractor licenses, you could see the wheels turning behind Karen's eyes. Maybe for the first time in her life, she wasn't holding all the cards. But Karen didn't retreat. She doubled down. Wellness checks, anonymous complaints, city inspectors just doing their jobs, but never finding anything wrong. It turned into psychological warfare. Every morning, another board member on our porch. Every week, a new emergency assessment. The kicker? All those repairs supposedly funded by extra dues, roof replacements, safety upgrades, never happened. Sarah started connecting the dots. Every payment went to some shadowy company registered to Karen's own family, for work that existed only on paper. I watched as my wife transformed. Her laptop became a command center, our dining table stacked with financial records, spreadsheets, legal docs, and late-night coffee. How deep does this go? I'd ask, half joking, half terrified. Turns out, pretty damn deep. Phantom contractors, shell companies, insurance fraud, forced sales. All the trademarks of organized crime, just with fancier landscaping. We weren't the only targets. Margaret, our widowed neighbor, nearly lost her home to made-up fees. Tom, the retired accountant down the street, had been quietly tracking numbers that never quite added up. Once Sarah looped them in, you could feel the shift, a few good people standing up together, and suddenly Karen's intimidation started to crack. Karen, of course, saw her empire slipping and went full scorched earth. She sent her brother-in-law Rick to trim a tree, meaning drop a pine limb onto our fence and slap us with a $3,000 repair bill. She painted threats on our security cameras, sent her minions to Margaret's house at night. The kind of stunts that say, "I'm desperate and I want you scared." Sarah just kept gathering evidence, photographing damage, tracing wire transfers, matching boot prints to Rick's size 11 work boots. Then came the day Karen called the cops, her piece de resistance. Accused us of hiding illegal activity behind new locks, demanded the police break into our home, all under the banner of community safety. What she didn't expect was Sarah stepping outside, calm as you please, flashing her federal badge and laying out the full extent of Karen's crimes: embezzlement, fraud, racketeering. The deputies' faces went from neighborhood dispute to federal case in about 3 seconds flat. Karen, for the first time, looked truly cornered. The final blow was public. Emergency HOA meeting, every resident summoned. Karen desperate to paint us as villains misusing government resources. She launched into her greatest performance yet, PowerPoint slides, trembling voice, appeals to community values. And then Sarah stood, cool as mountain shade, and laid out 3 years' worth of damning evidence. Fraudulent assessments, fake repairs, insurance money funneled straight into Karen's pocket. Tom backed it up with his own spreadsheets. Margaret stood and told how Karen threatened her with forced sale. The room went dead quiet. Then federal agents, real, stone-faced, badge-wearing marshals, walked in, cuffed Karen and Rick, and read them their rights in front of the entire neighborhood. That's what justice sounds like, by the way. A click of handcuffs, a stunned silence, and the collective realization that the monster under the bed was just another greedy neighbor in a pantsuit. 3 months later, you wouldn't recognize Pine Ridge. The air's cleaner. Maybe not literally, but it sure feels that way without Karen's Escalade belching up and down the road. Our new HOA president is an accountant who shreds imaginary bylaws for fun. Real transparency, real community. The money Karen stole got recovered and paid back. Every resident got a check, and now we've got an annual scholarship for local kids who want to go into law or public service. The only drama left is whose casserole wins at the potluck. Sarah's now running a federal task force targeting HOA fraud. Turns out, our little neighborhood was just one rotten apple in a whole orchard of corruption. Margaret runs the scholarship program. Tom oversees the books, and I've got more furniture commissions than I can handle. Turns out, standing up to bullies is good for business. Justice, real justice, isn't always a dramatic showdown. Sometimes it's community potlucks, kids playing outside, and not being afraid of who's knocking at your door. And Karen? For years federal, permanent ban from HOA boards. Everything she stole turned into restitution or scholarships. Rick's not building anything more complex than a birdhouse for the next decade. Here's what I learned. Bullies only win if you let them. Paper trails matter. And sometimes the person you think is just a quiet neighbor has been gathering evidence the whole time. You got your own HOA nightmare? Drop it in the comments, because I promise I read every single one. Justice is contagious, and sometimes the sweetest revenge is a neighborhood that actually feels like home. So, tell me, ever seen justice served up hotter than Karen's last board meeting? Drop your story below. Hit that like if you love a good takedown. And don't forget, community means standing up together. See you at the next showdown.